And obviously, you mentioned that you're disorganized in some areas. How would you structure your day-to-day and manage your time?
I am what you would call disorganized, I guess. I try to improve on that, especially when it comes to the company, of course. Making sure that we have a digitalized system in place. We're currently undergoing a process of further digitalization of the processes. But when it comes to my home life and daily life, I guess the fact that I'm disorganized helps in a way that my expectations are not too high, in the sense that I feel like I failed on different tasks. Many times I'm asked, how do you manage, with 4 kids and the business? I don't manage to do it all. Every single day I'm left with, I didn't manage that today. I didn't have time to finish the task. There is, 4 different points in my to-do list that are... But I try to focus on the most important and the most urgent things that need to be done. And then, I accept that I cannot do it all. I have learned that I need to accept help. Even when it comes to childcare, I have learned that it's okay to take shortcuts sometimes. I don't need to have a 4-course meal ready on the table every day, and my kids have learned to accept that as well. And sometimes it's more of a priority to, I don't know, do a school project or finish off an email, for example. Priorities is something that now the entire family has learned to understand. And we understand as well that priorities might change, and the fact that I don't follow such a strict timetable. I'm not so strict with myself and the rest of the family. That helps because, we're a family of 6. And every day there's something that we did not plan for. And you have to figure it out on the spot.
Yes. And that's what we were discussing before. Sometimes you have to take decisions with little to no info in some cases, or with little to no insight or foresight in some cases. And sometimes you have to keep the best interest of the family and of the children in mind and take the decision without knowing whether the decision is right or wrong, until you take the decision and you are faced with the consequences of that decision. And sometimes that's even harder. But again, as I expressed before, I think that it's the children would know whether you mean well or not, and that you have their...
And you make mistakes. In any cases, you make mistakes. And it's completely fine to make mistakes, and show them you can make mistakes. Growing up, I put a lot of pressure on myself to, as much as possible, never make mistakes, and always, avoid imperfection. And it didn't have very good consequences on myself, my life, my growth, I guess. And I certainly don't want to pass that on to my kids. I would like for them to have the space, the room to make mistakes, learn from those mistakes. I see it a lot in the world of business, of course. You make mistakes, and it's only if you don't try that you avoid making mistakes. And again, leaving this what if, it's something that I hate I would hate for my kids to be left with many what ifs just out of fear.
And I think you have to give the space and the empowerment that children can explore, because obviously as parents have the huge influence on the children, and it can dictate whether the children feel at ease and explore things or not. There are mistakes that you can avoid, which are obviously harmful for sure. Yes, so ideally you don't try certain things out. But there are things when it comes to creativity and trying new ideas and trying new approaches that are beneficial. And the beauty of children is that they like to explore. It's part of their it's part of growing up. Everything is new for them, because when they are grown up and they are adults, that space for a creativity and exploration is drastically reduced. Especially if you're an employee. There's nothing wrong with being an employee, but if you're working as part of a business and your job is not as creative, even if it is, because I've met with graphic designers who
but you're still limited.
But you're still
by
limited, even by the client.
Yes,
So
of course.
you're still bound. You can't explore at infinity your creative. So there's a limit to what you can stretch. So I think it's important to give that window, that I would say 15-year window of boundless creativity and boundless exploration. I think that has a huge impact on the formation of people in general when they become adults as well. And I think that might be, I would speculate, that might be one of the root causes of mental struggles as well. Because if you make a mistake and you stress about making a mistake, again, the word stressed, you feel stressed, you feel anxious that, oh no, I did a mistake, and you perhaps you didn't have the right environment to develop certain resources, internal resources, to say, okay, I made a mistake, how can I go about it now? What options do I have? To think calmly in a situation. Most of the things can be solved. Obviously, not everything can be solved, but when you do mistakes, we can at least redeem ourselves in some way, shape, or form. So, but it's having the awareness that we can do something about them. And sometimes we don't see that, because we keep focusing on the problem and not on the solution.
Or what you've learned from it.
Yes. And there are so many lessons we can learn from making mistakes. And I think that's the beauty of it. It's not making mistakes, but it's taking a decision, trying to evaluate as much as you can the pros and cons of the decision. But you said that there are things that are unplanned on the day-to-day.
Of course.
Curveballs are everywhere. So you might take a decision, you might think that, and it happens to me quite a lot, because I tend to plan quite ahead, and that is my mistake. And sometimes you plan for something and a totally unexpected thing happens. And that's the beauty of life as well, in a sense.
Exactly, and that you figure out how to overcome that particular situation.
Yes.
And then you have to learn how to be flexible as well.
So being disorganized in your case, I think that's very beneficial, because you don't limit yourself into following a plan to the dot. So, Donna, you've been to Shark Tank as well in the past months.